We are back on Get Up, and we have breaking news. We've been telling you this morning that 4 Miami Marlins players had tested positive for the coronavirus and that the team had not yet traveled as of this morning from Philadelphia to Miami, where they're scheduled to play tonight. Jessica Mendoza was scheduled to join us right here anyway. The timing of that works out well, as our insider Jeff Passan has further breaking news. Jeff, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Greeny, the number of positive cases among Miami Marlins players is now up to 12. 2 coaches, sources have told me, and Jesse Rogers, are also positive for COVID-19. This is the sort of outbreak that baseball was afraid of. And what happens now is anyone's best guess. Their game, their home opener against the Baltimore Orioles, has been canceled, and the further fallout today and in the coming days is going to be awfully interesting to see really the viability of the 2020 Major League Baseball season and how baseball, or if baseball, continues to be played.
It is not overstating it to say just that, right? That the season, less than a week in, hangs in the balance as one of the teams has been significantly compromised. If we know of at least 12 players, you're talking about 40% of the roster, and we're not even a week in. And again, is it overstating it to say the season is hanging in the balance as to how they handle this from here forward?
Greeny, I think the motivation in Major League Baseball for games to be played is great. I think it is significant. I also think it's being tested right now by this outbreak, and how MLB and Rob Manfred responds to this is going to be awfully interesting to see, because it's going to show the lengths to which they are willing to go to put a season on. That is not in the operations manual. They have 113 pages worth of protocols in place to get a season played. Nowhere in there does it explicitly say what they do in the case of an outbreak of this extent. And so to see how they handle it, not just today, but going forward, is really, I think, going to chart the course for the season and to let the world know this is how far Major League Baseball is willing to go to get a season played.
Again, it may not be in the operations manner, but there's no way this is taking people by surprise. This obviously was always a possibility, so they have to have had some idea what they're going to do. Again, in case you didn't catch it in what Jeff said, they had a game tonight scheduled, their home opener against Baltimore in Miami. That game has been canceled. Jess Mendoza, again, we were planning on talking about a lot of other things with you. None of them seem important right now. What is your reaction to this?
This is scary. Period. I mean, this is something that, yes, expected. I mean, something that you knew there was going to be the unexpected coming into this season. But the fact, so quickly, we see the amount of positive tests. Just yesterday, we were talking about a few. Now it's up to 12. I mean, this should elicit real fear. And I hate saying that because, of course, we want baseball. I can't tell you how giddy I've been all weekend to watch the games. But right now, as Jeff was saying, this is the #1 challenge that Rob Manfred will face in his entire career as commissioner, because of how bad they want to put baseball on the field. And yet you have a team that's already shown us how quickly and how serious this can get. All eyes are on him right now and what he will do next.
Now, the Marlins, of course, their home games and their lives are based in Florida. And we all have seen over the last few weeks what the numbers have been relative to the coronavirus in the state of Florida. So again, this should come as no surprise. We talked months ago about the possibility of a bubble. And the NBA is all upset this morning because one player seemed to show some lack of discipline with regard to the bubble when he was not in there. With Major League Baseball, these guys are all out there living their lives. I mean, Jeff, I don't want to overstate the obvious, but it feels like this was very predictable, right? The idea that they would just be able to travel around the country and live as though a pandemic wasn't going on just does not seem reasonable. This doesn't feel like it should be that surprising to anyone.
No, it's not that surprising, Greeny. And let's not just put this on the players. It's also on the umpires. It's also on the coaches. It's also on the whole traveling party. It's also on the people who are not included on the tier 1 and 2 and 3 lists within the organization. Flight attendants, hotel workers, people who they are going to come into contact with on a daily basis. And that's the folly of this plan. Could it have worked? Could it continue to work? Yes, it can, but the inevitability of something like this happening was clear from the start. And I think it was clear earlier this week when on opening day, Juan Soto, the Washington Nationals' best player, tested positive for COVID-19. And I talked with somebody, a high-ranking official that day, and he said to me, just wait until it starting pitcher test positive. And that happened yesterday with Jose Urena with the Marlins. And I don't think we realized it at the time, but when 4 Marlins tested positive over the course of about 48 hours, it was just setting the stage for what we have right now, which is almost half of a team testing positive, which is an opening day being canceled, and which is the rest of the season being thrown into peril.
Jessica, what do you think happens from here? Like, I know you'll start making phone calls, all that. This is all literally happening as we speak. This is developing news that Jeff is bringing us within just the last 5 minutes. But where do you think this goes from here? They don't play tonight. They get their testing done. And now what happens?
You know, I think that honestly, from here, you look at every other team and you start to really watch, you know, do the Nationals have any more positive tests? You start to see, I was just speaking with the Mets over the weekend and their protocols and how it's constantly changing, because even though there's 113 pages, as Jeff mentioned, in the protocols, it really comes down to the teams and what these players are doing off the field, Greeny. I mean, we're watching these games, we're seeing the masks, we're seeing the social distancing, but when that red light goes off and we're not able to see what these players are doing, that's where the real questions come up. I think there need to be more rules on what they're doing away from the field, because to me, that's where the real difference is happening. That's where a lot of these players are getting this virus.
Look, it's their lives to lead, not mine. I can't sit here and tell these players that they should have gone into a bubble and separated themselves from the world as they know it otherwise for some period of time. Now, the way it worked out, they didn't start this season until the end of July. So really we'd be looking at, what is it, Jeff, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is. It was not the 5 months we were talking about at the beginning. But the one way to try and get through this thing would be that. And to try, as you point out, traveling around and all of that, it seems next to impossible to get this thing done. And I've tried to be optimistic about this from the day we started in all of this in March. But sometimes you have to be realistic. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.